All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos. And this is a long-awaited and celebratory stream. Today, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about me completing my doctorate. So I have officially defended my dissertation, a part of which we're going to talk a little bit about today. And so many of you guys have been on this YouTube channel, been following me probably for a few years. I've been doing this YouTube channel for 5 years, talking about culture, philosophy, history from an Orthodox Christian perspective. And, I've been in this process of trying to finish my doctorate. And the ironic thing is I have no intention, at least as of right now, we're going to talk about future plans for the YouTube channel, plans for another YouTube channel, plans to go on various YouTube channels and podcasts. And so I'll be actually asking you guys a bunch of input today, like legitimately, want to talk to you guys about things that I could change regarding my business, about content I create, about a second book. So I really this stream is going to be very relaxed and very much of an engaging stream because I really want to hear back from some of you guys concerning. So we're going to cover a little bit about my dissertation, but one of the things that I came to the conclusion upon finishing my dissertation is, I had this very naive and rosy perspective that, oh man, once I finish my dissertation, I'll be able to publish it as a book, and then I'll finally have my book, right? And then once I finished it, I came to the realization that this is very, very academic. This is not going to be a popular read, and it's kind of dense. So I was going to talk a little bit about the defense today and some of the comments I got from my committee, and that I passed with no revisions. So I was really excited about that. So the ways in which you can pass your defense is pass with a distinction, pass, just clear straight pass with minor revisions, or pass with major revisions. And I got a straight pass. And I did have some minor errors. I had a bunch of, we'll talk about the whole process, but man, am I relieved. So this defense was this last Friday, May 9th. And I have been, as you guys know, been working and trying to complete this thing while doing this YouTube channel. And at least until really this year and maybe ending of last year, really until I started writing the dissertation, like the first chapter began in May of last year, essentially 1 year ago. It took me 1 year to write, and really more than that, because it took me about 4 or 5 months just to read all the books so I could begin writing the first chapter. And so I'm actually really excited to kind of show you guys an overview of the dissertation, but I'm not going to read all of it to you because, and this is one of the things that if you guys got suggestions, please let me know in regards to publishing. I think right now my plan is probably just to self-publish through Amazon. There's been a couple people I've talked to related to some publishers that might be interested, some Orthodox publishers, but my worry is allowing somebody to have control over it. And so if it was to become successful and say maybe multiple people bought the book, I want to be able to own it. And if a large publisher came in the future because it was popular and wanted to print a edition for them, I want to be able to have the rights to sell it. So, it seemed like from my research looking into it that if you go ahead and go through a publisher, say they print 10,000 copies. Well, once those 10,000 copies have been purchased, it's kind of up to them whether they want to print any more copies or not. And so you're kind of hamstrung that way. So if you guys have any suggestions on what you think the most ideal way to pursue publication is, please let me know. I'd be greatly, greatly interested in that. And so today, just a general discussion. I want to, again, thank everybody who's sending me congratulations and words of support. Shout out to BLA. He says, "What up, gang?" It wasn't BLA, was one of my editors. So very, very few people have read my dissertation. It's a handful, including my committee members. So I got to give a major appreciation to BLA because he's one of the only people that I've sent my chapters to, all 4 chapters, for editing and revision. And he had some critical advice in certain places, but it was always very wise, sort of sage advice in regards to the writing process and the clarity of the writing. And so major thank you goes out to BLA. Really appreciate you, brother, in the chat. Appreciate your friendship, man. I really love you, and thanks for everything, man. So looks like some people have already thrown in support. Major shout out to AC in the family throws in 10, says, always knew DPH was an anagram for PhD. Yeah. And well, this is going to get into, I was trying to think about how to retitle my old YouTube channel. We're going to get into it, but I'm going to redo the whole YouTube channel, the other one. That's right now, it's just David Patrick Carey. I've already changed. I actually just did some photos to try to create the rebrand, the sort of personal brand. We'll go to discuss all that. But I was trying to think, everybody I've talked to, so I was talking with an Orthodox friend, somebody that's actually in our community, and his specialty, his job actually is marketing. And so his big thing, if I wanted to become more successful and really build this business so I can take care of my wife and have the life that I the Orthodox Christian life and family that I desire to have, that I need to create more of a personal brand as opposed to just like general Church of the Eternal logos type of long form, heavy educational content. So I'm going to be taking all the content off that old YouTube channel, David Patrick Carey, and make it like Dr. David Patrick Carey. That was the suggestion that I got from multiple people. And in using that YouTube channel to really engage in culture on whatever the most controversial thing, topic, issue, policy that emerges that's being discussed on X or wherever it may be in popular culture, is to engage in those. So only make like 10 to 30 minute like edited videos every week talking about culture, discussing it, but not so much explicitly as an Orthodox Christian apologist. It's more about me from my perspective to try to engage, like the Shiloh Hendricks thing. If you guys are familiar, I'm not going to go into great detail, but everybody who's been following the Shiloh Hendricks and her Give Send Go account and the Carmelo Anthony murder, all that different stuff. So those type of topics, now that I feel like I'm liberated from a birdcage, it's like now that I have the PhD, I feel like I can engage with much more controversial, edgier topics without worrying that I'm going to get kicked out, I'm going to be prevented from getting my degree, and all these years going into this would have been for nothing. So I know it has nothing to do specifically with AC's comment here, but I am going to be redoing that old YouTube channel and basically doing podcasts with the biggest thinkers and shakers and culture. And it's not going to be explicitly Christian. Of course, everything that I do will be. But the goal is to sort of engage in the most controversial sort of clickbait stuff that's happening in culture. This was the advice given to me on how to really grow a brand on YouTube channel, or a brand online with your YouTube channel. And so to engage, I'll probably do, podcasts with Andrew and maybe Rollo and all these different people in the manosphere, cultural sphere, Christian sphere. And it's going to be related to a second book that I'm going to write. My goal is to maybe start by June, is begin writing a second book. It's going to be much more easier, much more popular, because I was telling you guys, upon completing the PhD, one of the realizations is this is going to be a difficult read for the average person. And I need to make something much more general. And so the marketer friend, our Orthodox marketing friend, advised me. He says, when you look at online, you look at some of these major brands like a Rollo, they always have like a general book and a popular book that's accessible to the average reader related to whatever it is they're doing. So I was thinking about writing a second book, and this is where I am open to any suggestions. So guys, if you have suggestions, let me know. But this was my thoughts. Maybe something related to like the crisis of man. That's kind of a classic title, right? The crisis of man. When I was going on Amazon, I didn't find any sort of historically iconic books by the title The Crisis of Man. And so I thought if I could write something that was very popular, easily digestible. This is for maybe a young man between 16 and 30 years old. And the idea of the book would be to present the historical context and situation a man would find himself in the year 2025. And so what I mean by that is when I was looking at some of these other books talking about the crisis of masculinity or manhood, it's very relegated in its focus. And so maybe it's all about red pill or manosphere or the gynocentric world order or the divorce courts, this type of dynamic. And so my thought is that's way too myopic if we're going to be talking about the crisis of masculinity. And so this other book, The Crisis of Man, would begin by talking about, like, if you're 18 years old, where in the trajectory of history are you regarding nihilism and the death of God, meaninglessness, the postmodern turn in philosophy? Another chapter would be red pill, manosphere, dating, divorce courts. Another chapter would be the economic situation, central banking, fiat currency, debt-based systems, why you can't afford a home, identity. So globalism, the destruction of national identity, ancestral identity, racial stuff. So the point of the book would be a general intro, very straightforward, very easy to read, very digestible, that is really just for a young person, that if they read it from beginning to end, they would be able to situate themselves in what has happened and where they're at in regards to world history in the West. that was kind of my thought. But you guys let me know if you the crisis of the biological man. Yeah. Um, but that was kind of my thought. And so instead of like even the Jordan Peterson stuff and just looking at some of the works that have been related to this, it doesn't address the whole situation. And so my point, the book, again, it won't be explicitly Christian because that narrows my audience too much. But the solution, the last chapter, will be that if you recognize the death of God, the death of tradition, the failure of modernity, the economic global world order, fiat currency, the dating market, the only option then in the last chapter would be the solution is the Orthodox Church, but it won't be marketed as a quote unquote Orthodox book. So that was kind of my thought. If you guys have any more suggestions regarding like what type of book do you think would be popular? What type of book do you think would be something that would be to get the average person to engage with my content? Because that was one of my difficulties, and I'm open to anybody who has suggestions is like, how do I build this business as a sort of online educator, content creator, cultural commentator, cultural philosopher, if you will, Orthodox Christian, and get people engaged and with the ideas and the concepts without having to, watch hours and hours of YouTube videos or be too highfalutin when I write for people to understand. So that's kind of the goal. If you guys have other suggestions, maybe a different even book focus, book title, because one of the things is I am actually going to be asking you guys to rename my dissertation. So right now, and I want to get through all the super chats real quick, but I want to come back to this is I got to get a way more clickable title here for before I publish this thing as an actual book. So right now it's titled Rebuilding Babel, an Eastern Orthodox Christian critique of transhuman deification and eschatology. But that's too long. It's not clickable. It's not a viral title, right? That's a very academic dissertation type title. So if you guys have recommendations, I'm going to go over the introduction. I'm going to show you guys the table of contents in just a second. So you get a better feel for what the project was and everything. Orthodox Boomer Grandma throws in $20. Thank you so much, Alexandria. God bless you and the family. Hope everybody at Union of All Icons is doing well. And Michael and Adriana throw in $5. Thank you so much. They said, congratulations. Glory to God. The hard work has paid off. Doctor. Yes, it has paid off. It has paid off. And I feel so relieved. Like there's an inner excitement. My wife was commenting how I just felt lighter after having all this completed. So it is glory to God, and all the hard work has paid off. But I even in this stream, I wrote down shoulds and should nots on whether somebody should actually go and complete a PhD. Is a PhD worth it? And I actually have critiques on both sides. It depends on your interest. It depends on your focus and why you're doing it. But I do want to discuss that a little bit as well. Well, Emmanuel throws in 50 Mexican. Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it. He says, congrats. Thank you so much, brother, for the support. And David James Flood gifts a COTEL Crew membership to the chat. Thank you very much, David. And Rough Hands, been a COTEL Crew member for 25 months, says, congrats, Doc. Thank you so much, Rough Hands. Really appreciate it. God bless you, brother. Testicular Tactics, one of the best YouTube handles online. Throws in 2, says, Doc, my wrist hurts. Can you write a prescription? And Jason Scholl, member for 2 months, says, congratulations, David. Thank you so much, Jason. Really appreciate that, my man. Thank you. And Austin DeTulio sends a generous $20. Congratulations, big dog. Thank you so much, Austin. Really appreciate it. And Snaggle Beast, 14-month member. Congrats, David. It looks like there's more than corn in Indiana now. Recently, my priest has been vocally addressing me as a catechumen. God bless. Well, that's great, brother. Really appreciate it. Yes, there is a little bit more in Indiana than just corn. Not a whole lot, but there is a lot of basketball, a lot of car racing. Nectarios becomes a COTEL Crew member. Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate that. And Kristen, Slowboy Whiteboard, member for 26 months, says, congratulations, Dr. Harry. Thank you so much, Kristen. Glory to God. So proud of your accomplishments. Thank you so much, Kristen. Fellow Hoosier, by the way. So thank you so much, sister. Really appreciate that. Dell throws in 2, says, Felicitations, and will support your dissertation. Well, thank you, brother. Really appreciate the support. Alex throws in too, says, congratulations, my brother in Christ. Thank you very much, Alex. Really appreciate that. And Jay Hamza throws in a generous $50. Thank you so much, Jay. He says, the reality is orthodoxy is hard to digest coming from a background of religion and Protestantism and Islam. Now I've accepted it, and congratulations. With God's help, you will reach many people, and the lost will see hope in you as they see God in you. Well, glory to God, and God willing, I hope so, Jay. So I feel very, very fortunate. You know, one of the first things I did was thank God for giving me the opportunity to achieve this goal and accomplish it. And I just feel very thankful. And for me personally, it was worth it. You know, as I said, is it worth going and getting a PhD? I think it really depends on what you plan to do with it. And the irony is, everybody that I tell what I'm going to do with my PhD really don't have a clue on what I'm doing, or kind of second guess or think that I'm making a mistake. Because typically you go work for a university, right? University, a think tank, write academic papers. Basically, that's the gist of it. And my goal is to utilize it as a bridge to becoming more of a sort of popular cultural intellectual, a ministry, trying to evangelize and do a Christian apologetics. I plan to do more debates now. So that's another thing that you're going to see in the next few months, is I'll be engaging in a lot more debates as a way to kind of market my ideas, market myself, get new followers, engage with new audiences. So, yeah, so I think reasons why you shouldn't do a PhD is one. So here's my reasons why you shouldn't. It depends on who you are, but number one, it takes a tons of time and effort and money. So unless you know what it is you want to write, and of course the general narrative of every person that goes to graduate school is they think they know what they're going to write. For example, when I went to my PhD program, when I first got in, I was supposed to write a dissertation on people who are spiritual but not religious and why they appropriate various religious symbols. I myself was not Christian at the time. I was deeply in the psychedelic spirituality, spiritual but not religious, new age spirituality, that type of milieu and cultural sphere. And as you guys know, said it 1,000 times, but anybody who doesn't, that first semester during my PhD, I took a course, and I wrote a paper on a book called The Psychedelic Gospels, right here by Dr. Jerry Brown and his wife, Julie Brown. Dr. Jerry Brown was actually on my PhD committee. So I reached out to him back when I had my old YouTube channel, and we did a podcast talking about the theory of a sort of psychedelic Eucharist within Christianity, some of the supporting evidence, some of the iconography that he describes in here. So, for example, you know, this is the Amanita muscaria mushroom, as you guys are probably aware of. This is a church in this one's in France, Church of Saint Martin de Vic. And you can see how it, well, this is plain coralt. You see, this is a depiction of the original sin. A lot of people think it's psychedelic mushroom. Here's Saint Martin de Vic in France. It shows Christ entering on the ass and being handed what appears to be a mushroom. Here's, what is this one? Isaiah's lips, the purification of Isaiah's lips, which looks like God handing down a mushroom cap. And then that same church where you go to the towers of Jerusalem, it looks like, again, they're cutting down these mushrooms. Very, very strange. And then here at the Last Supper, you see Christ, what looks to be like mushroom caps cut in quarters on the table. Anyways, pretty interesting, considerable evidence. I'll show you another one. This is from a church in Germany. It's in Hildesheim, Germany, St. Michael's Church. And this is a depiction on the ceiling of the Jesse tree. And at the bottom is Adam and Eve, what appear as an Amanita muscaria mushroom, where they're picking off the white spots and appears to be eating them. And so anyways, Dr. Brown and I eventually wrote a paper arguing what I believe that this was part of a Gnostic heresy, the Cathars, the Albigensians that migrated to Western Europe from Bulgaria with the Bogomils, and before that from Armenia with the Paulicians and the Tondrakians. So a bunch of Gnostic groups. But anyways, I did a conversation with Dr. Brown years ago. This was like 2017. We did a podcast on my old YouTube channel. And ever since then, we've stayed in contact. And certainly my interest and my worldview has shifted. And we probably have very different perspectives and opinions on a lot of hot topics in culture. However, I do have to be very appreciative of him because he was very supportive. He was always willing to read anything that I sent him, give me advice, give me suggestions. And it was him and the other professor. So on my doctoral committee, so when you get a PhD, you have to have a committee of people that have some type of expertise semi-related to the topic you're writing about. And so for me, originally my project, spiritual, not religious, but then it changed. So once I got to my dissertation, and this was after 2020 was like a wasted year because nobody's at the university, everything, basically nothing happened that year. But the following year, I was getting ready to start my comprehensive examinations, which are sort of these papers you write in preparation for your dissertation. And usually one of the papers is like a chapter. Well, I wrote my whole comps on the theory that I was going to write a dissertation on psychedelic spirituality as a new religious movement and sort of document the history of psychedelic use within world religions and then demonstrate its presence within the 21st century and how it has sort of taken on its own spiritual paradigm. It could be considered its own sort of new religious movement. And Dr. Brown and the other professor, so the people on my committee is my advisor, so my academic advisor, he is a scholar in religious studies, but new religious movements and Western esoteric traditions, which was always my interest. So if you guys remember when I did my master's degree, I was getting deep into the psychedelic stuff, but my focus was like Hermeticism. I was big into Hermeticism, Gnosticism, early Christianity. And so during my master's at Illinois, that was the focus, was early Christianity, really interested in Gnosticism and like essentially the first 400 years, the first 200 years, even more in particular, and looking at how the Gospel of Thomas arose in relationship to the canonical scriptures and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I was as a non-Christian person interested in religion and spirituality and stuff like that. And then the other one was psychedelic shamanism. So there was a Native American professor, Dr. Treat, at the University of Illinois. I don't know if he's still there, but he is a Native American and a professor on Native American scholarship. And so he did a course on tribal formation and stuff like this. And he basically allowed me to do a research project focusing on the use of inebriating substances in Native American tradition, something of that nature. So again, kind of psychedelic shamanism, stuff like that. But my point is, Dr. Lawrence, when I came to go start my PhD program, I was very much interested in like Hermeticism, magic, theories of magic, that type of stuff. And so Dr. Lawrence was naturally my advisor because he taught the courses and was an expert in kind of the areas that I was interested in. The other one is Dr. Vega. She is an Aristotelian Thomistic scholar at the Dominican school at the Graduate Theological Union, Berkeley, California. And so the Dominican school, very, very different from the Jesuit school. So the Graduate Theological Union, where I got my degree from, is essentially a PhD master's. It's a secular institution that has all these member schools. And the schools include, there's an Eastern Orthodox. That's where I took the course on Orthodoxy. Member schools like the Jesuit school, the Dominican school, the Baptist school. And inside these schools, which are graduate schools, they offer graduate degrees, are professors that have expertise related to various topics. And the Graduate Theological Union has their own professors that are not tied with any specific member school. But anyways, Dr. Vega, I took courses with her on neuroscience, personhood, mind and brain. And so when it came to transhumanism, one of the interesting things in my dissertation, which I'm going to show you guys, is in my dissertation, so many of the things that I studied throughout my academic journey tied into this somehow. So in the first chapter, this technomillenarism, the return to Eden, what I'm trying to do in this chapter is talk about a trajectory within Western Christianity and really Western philosophy that began to incorporate the idea of mechanical technology or technology in general as being a sort of created grace, a form of grace from God that Christians could defeat their enemies and build utopia. The idea was that technology, what was lost during the fall, technology would redeem. And I repeat that phrase a few different times throughout the paper. But this idea that somehow we had perfect knowledge, we had perfect awareness, we were omnipotent in some degree, we were immortal. These attributes that were associated with Adam and Eve began to be believed that technology eventually would restore these things. And so throughout that chapter, I'm attempting to trace this belief from the beginning of what I call the mechanical imago Dei in the Middle Ages. It really begins with the Carolingian era. So if you guys are familiar with the Carolingian Renaissance, Charlemagne establishes the Carolingian era, the empire, the Holy Roman Empire, that type of stuff. So it begins with John Scotus Erigena. It's actually an Irish Neoplatonist that I've covered, did a whole stream covering him before, but he is the first person to actually equate the advancement of technology as a spiritual and moral advancement for the perfection of humanity. And so transhumanism, therefore, is essentially a Western Christian presuppositional framework for salvation and eschatology that eventually emerges once we move through scholasticism, and then we have the Renaissance, then we have the Enlightenment, the Industrial Revolution, all this stuff. You can see how the Christian baggage of this framework eventually is sort of taken away as it progresses and becomes more and more secular, where now we have essentially the religion of transhumanism. So I'm gonna discuss this a little bit more. I just want to hit all these super chats real quick. GC Mitt throws in 5, says, congratulations, been watching the channel for a while, looking forward to reading the book. Well, thank you so much, GC Mitt. I'm excited to publish it. I'm excited to have it out there. I'm excited for people to read it. I'm going to read the introduction to you guys today. I had somebody who wanted to sponsor a stream on me actually reading parts of it to you, which I would love to do, because you'll be able to see that within it, it's very dense. So this isn't like a fast read. The amount of names and dates and references to important historical people, it's considerable, but that's why it's an academic work. But I hope for those that are interested, I mean, it is, and this is one of the feedback that I got from my committee that I was very, very pleased with, because as I told you guys, I didn't have many people read my dissertation. BLA read it, the Eschaton Vigil read it, and that's it. And then I sent it to my committee, and I didn't know how they're going to take it. This is a wide variety. This is, nobody's orthodox. One is a secular sort of New Age psychedelic scholar. Another one's a Catholic Thomistic Aristotelian scholar. And another one is a Swedenborgian Western esotericist, New Religious Movement scholar. I didn't know how they're going to take my project, which is essentially comparing Orthodox theosis, the Eastern Orthodox paradigm, pre-modern paradigm, and how that relates to transhumanism as a competing narratives for deification. And I'm going to explain the project here in a little bit. It takes a few words to actually explain the whole project, but I'll do that in just a second. Jack, the guitar god, throws in 10, says, congratulations, doctor. I found a church thanks to one of your interviews with a father. I will become a catechumen on the 29th. Thank you, sir. God bless. Well, glory to God, Jack. That's wonderful. And thank you so much for the support. Slow Morrison throws in 10, says, glory to God. Congrats, Dr. DPH. So thank you so much, Slow Morrison. Really appreciate that, brother. Thank you. And Robert throws in 5, says, what's up, Doc? Yeah, appreciate that. And let me just check the Dono chat and Streamlabs real quick, just so we don't miss anybody. Over on Dono chat, Omega Megatron throws in a generous $40, says, congratulations. Thank you so much, Omega Megatron, for that. Really appreciate it. And Justin Henley sends in $20. Thank you so much, Justin Henley. No comment. Very much appreciated, brother. Thanks for all the support. An Abject Fool throws in a very generous $150. Thank you so much, Abject Fool. God bless you, brother. Thank you very, very much. And MFer throws in $4 on Dono Chat. Says, according to Diddy, PhD stands for player hater degree. I always get my recommendation and advice from Diddy. Thank you so much, MF. We really appreciate that. And Moldy Apple, thank you so much. Moldy Apple sends a generous $111, says straight cash for the straight pass. Well, thank you so much, Moldy Apple. Really appreciate that, my man. Thank you very much. Oh gosh, you guys have been so generous today. I really appreciate it. Thank you. So, regard to the dissertation, let me explain to you guys what the project is. I want to explain it to you, and I want to read the whole introduction to you guys so you get a better idea for it. And then I want you guys to give me advice on what to do or what you would like to see in regards to content and the business moving forward. I want to wrap up with any suggestions you guys have. So here's the abstract. You have to write a little abstract. Here's basically a general overview is this paper. Can I make this bigger on here? Let me see if I can make it bigger. Maybe it's easier to read. Yeah. Okay. This paper presents a comprehensive Eastern Orthodox Christian critique of transhumanism by examining its theological, philosophical, and historical underpinnings. Drawing on the Orthodox doctrine of theosis, the study contrasts traditional Christian deification achieved through divine grace, ascetic practice, and sacramental life with transhumanism's vision of self-deification through technological enhancement. This paper argues that transhumanism, rooted in Enlightenment humanism and techno-millenarian traditions, reconfigures religious eschatology into a secular narrative of salvation via artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and cybernetic immortality. Through intellectual history, this paper traces how Western theological developments sacralize technology as a redemptive force, culminating in contemporary transhumanist ideologies that mirror religious structures and aspirations. It critiques the metaphysical assumption of transhumanism, including its functionalist anthropology, its materialist epistemology, and its post-genderist ethics, and identifies its eschatological vision, centered on the singularity and the emergence of an AI God, as a secularized parody of Christian hope. The Orthodox critique frames transhumanism as a modern Tower of Babel, warning that its pursuits of techno-salvation undermines personhood, free will, and divine human communion. Ultimately, the paper positions Orthodox Christianity as a counter-narrative that upholds the sanctity of embodied human life and the transformative potential of divine grace, in contrast to technological apotheosis. So that is the rough overview of the whole thing. But if you look here at my chapters, you'll see like introduction, and this is what I was going to read you guys. My introduction, which is kind of a more specific overview than what the abstract that I just read. The methodology and scope. So when you write, when you do a district, you have to use some type of methodology, right? What is the method in which you're coming to your conclusions? My methodology is intellectual history. So the way that I approach it is that, well, I'll read it to you guys, but basically the idea is that there are root blocks or core blocks of thought that you can trace throughout history by their logical following and their cultural influence. So I use this methodology to trace the idea that technology can be redemptive in any way, that technology can actually bring about salvation, that technology can bring about God. And initially, as you'll see in the techno-millenarism, the return to Eden is that this belief that got going with John Scotus Erigena, essentially in the mid 1800s. Oops, what the? Essentially in the mid 1800s, he believed that technology would take us back to Eden. And so beginning at that point forward, technology was actually deemed, so I highlight in the Mechanical Imago Dei, it's in antiquity, knowledge, philosophical knowledge, because of its abstractness and its encompassingness, was believed to be a higher form of knowing than technical knowing or technical doing. And so technology was always deemed to be kind of the labor of slaves and peasants. And Aristotle, I quote Aristotle in one of his in Metaphysics, he has a quote that essentially people that work with technology, mechanics, artisans, is they do without knowing, like fire burns. And the point was in the antiquity that there's a major difference between knowing what writing is and the purpose of language than being able to manufacture a writing utensil tool. And for Aristotle, that was a world of difference. Knowing, philosophically knowing the role of language and how it functions and its more encompassing abstract meaning is much more deeper and fulfilling than being able to just craft a writing tool. That was the idea of antiquity. Well, this gets changed. And first you see the Benedictines, the monastics, and they have this new monastic phrase, ora et labora, right? Prayer and labor. And there's nothing wrong with labor as an ascetic practice. Orthodox monastics do the exact same thing. The difference is this ora et labora and the Benedictine tradition coincided with the Carolingian Renaissance, in which water mills, all types of technology gets developed and makes labor easier and more efficient. And because this happened, we begin to see during this period of the 9th century into the 10th century, the first depictions of God with like a compass and square. There's a depiction of one of the Psalms in which the Christians are using the first whetstone outside of China to grind a sword, where the enemies of God are using a much older form of technology to sharpen their swords, and the Christians are using a more advanced form of technology, insinuating that the Christians were blessed with technology to defeat the enemies of God, and that this is the means of God of how we actually unify and fulfill God's plan is through technological advancement. And so that idea that John Scotus lays out in the 800s in the 9th century gets developed and added to by people like Hugh of St. Victor, Roger Bacon. And then by the Renaissance, by the 1400s, there was already this entire worldview that tied a gentleman named Giacomo Fiore, who had this crazy sort of eschatological vision where he believed that there was like dispensational periods in history. And so Giacomo Fiore believed that history was divided into the persons of the Trinity, that there was the creation of man, which was the age of the Father. Then we got to Christ and the creation of the church, which was associated with the age of Christ. This was associated with the priest. And then he believed that his vision, his prophetic, now we don't believe it's prophecy at all. This was a delusion on his part, but he believed that the 1200s are going to be the ending of what he called the age of spiritual men. There was the age of the Holy Spirit, in which God was going to directly enliven individuals to bring about the kingdom of God. And he was a millenarian. He believed that this was all leading towards an earthly utopia. And so this eschatological visions of Giacomo Fiore was, as I highlight, some scholars say it was the most important prophecy up to the point of Karl Marx. So Protestant reformers, Catholic theologians, so many people were influenced by Giacomo Fiore. And this idea that we are getting ready to embark upon this millennial utopia. And Roger Bacon specifically adopts this whole worldview wholesale with what John Scotus Erigena said. So if John Scotus Erigena ties salvation and the arc of human history to the development of technology, Giacomo Fiore says the sacraments, the authority of the church, these things are no longer necessary in the age of the Holy Spirit. In the age of the Holy Spirit, what's only important, it's very Protestant. It's about your internal disposition. It's about the Holy Spirit coming and dwelling in you and you having a sort of personal communion with God. And this was going to lead toward an age of utopia with this age of spiritual men, the age of the Holy Spirit. And so this was huge. I mean, we're talking about most of the Protestant reformers actually had read Giacomo Fiore and believed in some regards, because as I highlight in this chapter 1, once we get to Western esotericism and technology, and then the Royal Society and modern science, I'm demonstrating that this worldview regarding technology and leading to salvation gets embedded within the magical century of the 16th century, where all this Hermeticism gets translated in the mid to late 1400s and spawns, the John Dees of the world, the Cornelius Henry Agrippas, the Paracelsuses, this whole magical century of the 16th century, the 1500s. As I said before, I would make the argument it's the most magical century in Europe. It is driven by this belief that Hermes Trismegistus is older than Moses. And therefore, because of the presuppositions of the Renaissance, if something is older, it's closer to the pristine state. Therefore, it's truer. And everything that moves through history becomes diminished and diluted. And therefore, if you want true wisdom, you need to go read the Hermes, the Hermetic Corpus, Hermes Trismegistus, because he received knowledge from God before Moses. This was the idea, until a gentleman named Isaac Casabon, I think it's in 1614, actually dates the Hermetic Corpus to the 3rd to 4th century based on the Greek that's being used. He basically uses philology to prove that Hermes was not before Moses. This whole work was written somewhere after Christ, generally between the 2nd and the 4th, but it's generally assumed it's the 2nd and 3rd century that this thing was written. So it totally then nullified this whole impetus for the Rosicrucian Brotherhood, the Fraternity of the Rosy Cross, the Illuminati coming out of Weishaupt and in Germany, and these ideas that they're going to create these sort of illuminated group through knowledge. Scholasticism set the basis by privileging reason as the mediator between us and God, as the defining mark of man. Scholasticism, moving into the Renaissance, moving into the Enlightenment, elevated reason. And so all this leads to eventually this sanitized form of science that we know today that's divorced from spirituality, which was necessarily needed to during the time of the development of the Royal Society and modern science. And that's the mid-1600s. So it's after the English Civil War that the Royal Society, I believe is it 1650, 1648, somewhere around there is when the Royal Society is founded. So anyways, laying all that stuff out is to demonstrate that the presuppositions of transhumanism are ironically uniquely Christian and uniquely Western. And therefore, Orthodox Christianity is a unique critique to transhumanism because, one, it's a pre-modern worldview. And when I read the introduction, this is going to make more sense. So the framework that I'm using for my dissertation is comparing these methods of deification, right? I'm making the claim that we are living in the post-secular moment. This is a term developed by Jürgen Habermas. He's actually part of the Frankfurt School, critical theory, all that stuff. Habermas isn't bad, but he has some good stuff. But the theory of the post-secular moment, also developed by a gentleman named Charles Taylor, identifies a point that technologically advanced modern societies towards the end of the 20th century and moving into the 21st century are post-secular in the sense that secular narratives like communism or your political or libertarianism or Black Lives Matter, secular movements, secular ideologies can now function as religion. And that because of the nihilism, because of the breakdown of tradition and the sort of fracturing of Western society, and this is really part of the postmodern turn, that we now live in a state in which there is no truly meaningful distinction between a religious orientation and a secular orientation, because the secular orientation for the secularists actually operates as a religious totalizing paradigm. So that's the post-secularism. So what I'm arguing then is that we're existing in a post-secular society in which postmodernism and pre-modernism, orthodoxy, are both critiquing the modernist project. And transhumanism is a modernist project. Transhumanism, out of the post-humanist philosophies, it's the one that's explicitly tied with the Enlightenment, right? When you think of Leonardo da Vinci and the Vitruvian Man, right, where there's 2 arms, 2 legs, that symbolizes the Renaissance, humanism, that man is the center of all things. He's the measure of all things. Transhumanism is an ideology that is a continuation of the anthropocentric focus of man, as opposed to all the other post-humanity ideologies, but with the intention of taking man to a post-human form. So I'm making a point in the paper that transhumanism we can understand as 2 different ways. Transhumanism, meaning emphasizing the Enlightenment humanism that transhuman's coming out from, and then transhumanism is that it's an ideology of a post-human future in which man is completely intertwined with technology, and it's driven by a narrative of salvation, of immortality, of omnipotence, all this different stuff. So I'm going to read some of you guys my introduction so you can kind of get a feel for the language of the paper. And yeah, I'm so excited to eventually make this a book so you guys can purchase. And I talk a little bit about the cultural relevancy here that I think is really interesting. So let me introduce, at least read the introduction. That way I can still do a stream in the future where I can read sections of this. And again, guys, in the chat, if you have any suggestions or if anybody posts one in the chat that you think is really good, please bring it to my attention. I need a new title. I need a new title for this. So as I read this introduction, give me recommendations for a new title. Right now it's Rebuilding Babel, the idea, because the continuing conclusion throughout the chapter as we get towards chapter 4, Transfiguration, God manhood versus man godhood, is how transhumanism and orthodoxy are two paths to divinity: God manhood, theosis; man godhood, transhumanism. How both of them perceive of a immortal existence. Transhumanism privileges the mind based on a functionalist definition. Transhumanism, or orthodoxy, the soul. Metaphysics, difference between theosis and henosis, post-secular moment, and then the return to Babylon. And so the very end of my paper, I'm arguing really, and all these eschatological streams that I've been making, I make reference and I actually quote the Eschaton Vigil twice in the paper, highlighting that not only is the paradigms different, not only is the methodology of deification between orthodoxy and transhumanism different, I make the claim at the very end that orthodoxy views transhumanism in its own eschatological terms and views it as bringing about the Antichrist, the one world global order, the full surveillance system, global technocracy. And I quote a bunch of different saints and church fathers and priests and stuff regarding that. So the general overview, the theme then is what I'm drawing on, is that transhumanism, orthodoxy are total opposites. And transhumanism is actually a Christian worldview that facilitates the end times from the Orthodox perspective by building the technology necessary for the Antichrist and an Antichrist kingdom to actually take over. So I need a better, so I was thinking, for example, it could be Rebuilding Babylon, I originally had it Rebuilding the Tower of Babel, but I thought Rebuilding Babel had a better ring to it. And then for the subtitle, I was thinking maybe just taking that last section, Return to Babylon, from Adam to Antichrist, because the idea here is that this worldview of transhumanism emerges from the 800s, in which technology was going to take us back to prelapsarian perfection. Prelapsarian is a fancy term to say before the fall. So before humanity fell, we were quote unquote perfect, which is not what orthodoxy teaches. I go through that in chapter 3, how orthodoxy actually views Adam and Eve, and that they were pristine morally, but they were not perfected in any way. And Adam is never the ideal of the Christian. It's the second Adam, Christ. And so I highlight that this whole transhumanism presupposition is based on the idea that somehow Adam is perfect and that you and I want to return back to Adam. So I thought maybe that would be a good one, Rebuilding Babel or Returning to Babylon, from Adam to Antichrist, transhumanism and Orthodox Christianity, or something like that. Like I need something that people are going to click on. So I thought maybe from Adam to Antichrist, Rebuilding Babylon, from Adam to Antichrist, transhumanism and Orthodox Christian term. I don't know. I need you guys to help me out, because I'm running a bit low on ideas here. So anyways, let me read the introduction. If you guys have ideas for titles, please let me know. So this is the introduction to my dissertation. As Orthodox Christian philosopher Brandon Gallagher states, transhumanism is satanic. So right off the get-go, I make it clear that Orthodoxy views transhumanism as demonic, essentially. Man, I'm getting hot. I need to take this jacket off. Whew. Sweating like crazy here. Oh. Well, Emmanuel says Rebabbling Tower. Yeah. And it looks like a few more people sent some stuff in. Rachel Day says, congratulations, brother. Thank you so much, Rachel. Thanks for being a member for 12 months. And Jeremiah Johnson gifted a COTEL Crew membership. Thank you so much, Jeremiah. I really appreciate that, my friend. And David James Flood gifted another COTEL Crew membership. So thank you guys so much for gifting the memberships. If anybody's feeling generous, please gift some out there. I'd greatly appreciate it. And let me just double check on Streamlabs. Oh. Okay, Streamlabs is loading up. Anyways, so as I read through this, guys, give me some suggestions. I'm legitimately open to it. And if you have, again, as we talked about, I'm going to open up the after we do this introduction, talk about the dissertation, free flowing conversation that you guys have advice for me in regards to business and content. And I have a few things I want to get your guys' thoughts on. So, all right, let's just get through this so you guys can kind of feel what the dissertation's about. Transhumanism tempts humanity with a pathway to self-deification that recapitulates Lucifer's false promise by the transgression, "You will be God," Genesis 3:5. Today, transhumanism promises human transcendence and deification not by way of moral discipline, sacraments, and ascetic practice, but by augmenting the human body with technology. This work utilizes the pre-modern worldview of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, specifically its doctrine of theosis, as a critical lens to examine contemporary transhumanism and its opposing methodology for human deification. Transhumanism is the offspring of Enlightenment humanism and incorporates a religious faith in the evolution of technology as a salvific means of human transcendence. In the pursuit of such goals, transhumanism diminishes personhood to functionalist definitions of cognition, drawing equivalence between the computational methods of computers and the subjective experience of human embodiment. In contrast, the Eastern Orthodox doctrine of theosis rejects any notion of deification being related to technical prowess. Instead, Orthodoxy understands deification as a gift of uncreated grace, in which people are able to directly participate in divinity by way of God's uncreated energies, and in so doing, become ontologically transformed. The Orthodox Christian worldview is an important and interesting critique of transhumanism, and it did not experience the same intellectual history that characterizes Western traditions. Not being influenced by scholasticism, the Renaissance, or the Enlightenment, Orthodox Christianity preserves the patristic onto-relational framework that prioritizes experiential knowledge of God as opposed to rational apprehension. While transhumanism desires to be remade in the image of superintelligent machines, Orthodoxy aims to be like Christ, the God-man, who has already sanctified human nature with the divine. This theanthropic paradigm emphasizes that Christ is the bridge to eternity, and entrance is gained by acquiring the image and likeness of the transcendent creator. The juxtaposition of these frameworks sets the stage for a deep philosophical and theological inquiry into how each understands the transformation of the human condition and under what metaphysical assumptions and eschatological hopes each project operates. Central to the transhumanist vision is a monistic materialist metaphysics, in which the end goal of humanity is to be augmented and plugged into a centralized digital network. Transhumanist religions, such as Yuval Noah Harari's Dadaism, posit that reality is fundamentally composed of bits of information, and all life, biological or synthetic, are essentially algorithms that process information at various speeds based on their position on the evolutionary spectrum. Whereas Christianity believes the Word was made flesh, Dadaism attempts to reverse the incarnation by seeking to turn flesh back into data. The singularity functions as a secularized Christian eschatology. Instead of anticipating the return of Christ, they eagerly await the emergence of God from machines. This work adopts rebuilding the Tower of Babel as a guiding metaphor to explore two starkly different approaches to human deification. Babel's biblical story addresses how the pursuit of a godlike status through human ingenuity ultimately leads to catastrophe and destruction. While on the one hand, transhumanism is avowedly secular techno-scientific movement for improved augmentation of humanity, on the other hand, it employs unambiguous religious rhetoric concerning apotheosis through technology. Despite its superficial similarities, eschatologically, these two paradigms are mutually exclusive. Transhumanism aligns with modernity's optimism for unlimited linear progress, culminating in a technological transition into utopian existence. This belief is reinforced by a combination of Darwinian evolutionary theory and Pierre Teilhard Desjardins' omega point theory. From this perspective, material evolution is a cosmological process of information complexity that is teleologically pulled forward until the arrival of ultimate intelligence. Orthodox Christian eschatology is amillennial, believing that the kingdom can already be glimpsed in the church, and understands the historical movement towards the eschaton as defined by the moral lives of individuals and societies. As people abide by the moral commands of God and seek repentance, so too is the arrival of Antichrist and his new Babylonian empire pushed back by the mercy of God. Any effort to dehumanize individuals or violate their God-given free will is seen as part of a larger spirit of Antichrist. While transhumanism pursues its goals for a total centralization of power, knowledge, and authority, as well as dehumanizing people to simple inputs and outputs, Orthodoxy understands these aims as Luciferian and contributes to a one-world order in which personal privacy, autonomy, and true divine union are abolished. The presuppositions that undergird transhumanism originate in a Western Christian thread of theological developments from the Middle Ages, which viewed technology as a means to restore the lost perfection of Adam and Eve. Techno-millenarian beliefs are traced throughout chapter 1 from late antiquity through the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, Enlightenment, and modernity. It argues that a unique strand of Western Christian thought progressively sacralized technological advancement as a means of restoring humanity's lost Edenic perfection. What humanity lost in the fall, technology was believed to restore. The salvific hope in technology begins with John Scotus Erigena 9th century theological elevation of mechanical arts as redemptive means to human perfection. This vision was later fused with Giacomo Fiore's millenarian eschatology, culminating in a techno-religious impulse that saw scientific and mechanical progress as preparatory for the kingdom of God. Figures such as Roger Bacon, Francis Bacon, and Robert Boyle are shown to have advanced this synthesis, promoting empirical science as a spiritual enterprise aimed at recovering Adamic knowledge and dominion. Chapter 1 further explores how this techno-millenarian trajectory was institutionalized through the Royal Society, Freemasonry, and engineering academies, positioning the engineer as a priest-like figure of societal transformation. In the American context, this vision was secularized and nationalized, casting the United States as a second Eden, destined to fulfill humanity's redemptive telos through technological innovation. The narrative culminates in the emergence of transhumanism as a post-secular heir to this tradition, wherein scientific aspirations for immortality, omniscience, and bodily perfection echo the theological promises of Christian eschatology, now reframed in secular techno-scientific terms. So I'm going to continue. I was just curious, you guys following, you picking up what I'm putting down here? As I said, it's a bit full of jargon. Holland the Good throws in 20, says, congrats on the PhD. Thank you so much, brother. Here's your title, but don't know if it was taken, though. Orthodoxy thought on transhumanism. Just throwing ideas and getting them started. Appreciate it. Yeah, any ideas I'm open to. What you think would sell as an interesting book. What would you buy if you saw as the book title? MB throws in 5, says, congrats, doctor. Thank you so much, MB. Please get this published, as it sounds like an amazing read. I think it's that's what I'm excited to show you guys, the actual chapters, the depth and the time it took me to find sources. It is thoroughly sourced and cited. And I'm excited for people to read it, to see the depth of how I went and found like the most obscure references and things within books. I combed through books and found books from like, the 1700s I'd never even heard of, and found like one page that said exactly what I was looking for that proved my thesis. So I'm excited for people to see the actual research. This has no citation. This is me describing what the paper is actually about. Chapter 2 presents a comprehensive analysis of transhumanism as a post-secular faith, exploring its historical roots, philosophical underpinnings, and cultural impacts. It elucidates how transhumanism, while often perceived as secular, exhibits explicit religious dimensions in its eschatological narrative and salvific promises. This chapter traces the movement's origins from Julian Huxley to the thoughts and aspirations of contemporary transhumanists. It examines transhumanism's incorporation of elements from older spiritual traditions, its explicit framing as a new religion by certain groups, and the continuity of its religious faith with techno-millenarianism. The analysis also addresses critiques and potential risks associated with transhumanist aspirations, ultimately positioning transhumanism as a post-secular faith offering meaning and transcendence through technological rather than traditional religious frameworks. Chapter 3 elucidates the intricate theological framework of Eastern Orthodox Christianity, centering on the concept of theosis and its multifaceted implications. It explores the essence-energy distinction in Orthodox theology, emphasizing the unknowability of God's essence while affirming the accessibility of divine energies for human participation. It delineates theosis as an ontological transformation, encompassing the entirety of human existence in union with the divine. The chapter further delves into logos theology, noetic epistemology, and therapeutic ethics, presenting a holistic worldview that integrates metaphysics, epistemology, and moral philosophy. The Orthodox understanding of sin as ontological privation and salvation as synergistic cooperation with divine grace is juxtaposed against Western theological models, highlighting the distinctive features of Eastern Christian thought. This analysis not only elucidates the foundational principles of Orthodox theology, but also demonstrates the capacity to harmonize philosophical tensions and offers a coherent framework for understanding the relationship between God, humanity, and creation. Chapter 4 provides a comprehensive analysis on the divergent approaches to human transcendence and deification between Eastern Orthodox Christianity and transhumanism. It examines their contrasting metaphysical frameworks, anthropological assumptions, and eschatological visions within the context of the post-secular moment and modern crisis of meaning. The concept of theosis, centered on synergistic communion with God, is juxtaposed with the transhumanist pursuit for technological apotheosis and post-human transformation. Whereas the techno-millenarians of old aimed to restore the prelapsarian perfection of Adam, transhumanists pursue the same project, but with the post-human being the new Adam. Orthodox critiques frame transhumanism as a misguided attempt to recreate Edenic perfection and build a new Babylon, warning of its potential to facilitate an antichrist figure. In this sense, Orthodoxy understands transhumanism as a parody of theosis, placing their hope in uniting with a pseudo-messiah. Ultimately, the analysis reveals profound philosophical and theological differences between these two paradigms of human transcendence, with significant implications for understanding personhood, ethics, and the ultimate destiny of humanity in a technological age. So, one of the things that I was really happy about, again, this is just the intro, kind of general overview of what the content is. What I was really happy to, shout out to Charles. He says, "Return to Babylon, the end of modernism." That's interesting. I like that, the end of modernism, because that's a huge factor in regards to, and this is going to tie into my stream tomorrow. I'm going to do a stream tomorrow on the conversations of the woke right. And I've been listening to a lot of what people have been saying in regards to sort of the right-wing circles and even the Christian commentaries on the woke right. And I think a lot of people, though moving in the right direction, are kind of missing what is happening. So I'm really excited tomorrow to dive into the woke right and why it's being labeled as such, and how this all relates to the tension within modernity and modernism, generally speaking. So Charles hits on a very, very central theme of the paper, which has to do with transhumanism essentially being the endpoint of modernity's project of an unending linear progress. Modernism is rooted on the fundamental presupposition that rationality, science, and therefore technological advancement will lead to the moral perfection of people as well. So not just the physical environment and the resources we have access to, but modernism believed that it was going to make more moral people as all this stuff advances. So when you look at the 20th century and the amount of people that died just through the two great world wars, and then you look at Stalin and Mao, I mean, the most amount of people in world history died in the 20th century, the same time in which modernity was supposed to reach its fulfillment. And so transhumanism is still the continuation of modernity. And this is going to get tied into the next section, or at least the cultural relevancy, because I bring up that the MAGA movement and the Trump administration is an agreement between the Zionist lobby and the technocrats and MAGA. And what all those things are is they built their house on the continuation of modernism. And so postmodernism and orthodoxy are actually on the same team in regard to the critique of modernity, because we're saying that modernity is over, it's failed, we got to go somewhere new. Orthodoxy is saying we need to go back before modernity started. Postmodernists are saying we need to just create a sort of subjectivist, relativistic world where everybody is equally true, because there is no ultimate narrative. Blue Skittle says Grok probably good for getting title ideas based on popular words. That's actually a really good point. I should just ask an AI to name it for me. And then shout out to Alexandra. She sends in another 5, says Mother Nectaria at St. Nicholas Press. She published The Ethics of Beauty by Dr. Yeah, well, actually, Mother Nectaria, St. Nicholas Press is in Indianapolis. I actually know Mother Nectaria. So I actually planned on sending her a copy at some point. I need to figure out, would it be worth going through like St. Nicholas or another Orthodox press or publishing it myself? Like, if I'm trying to build my public persona, my online business, and based on what I've been reading, but if you guys have anybody in the chat that has knowledge I don't know, from what I've been reading, it sounds like self-publishing is kind of the way to go, that you can make it pretty high quality. And you always have all the rights to the work. And if it becomes popular and you want to sell it to a publisher in the future, yeah, just let her read it. I'm going to let her read it. She's great. Mother Nectaria is great. I first met her at Montanica, actually. And then, Wicked Wally's in the chat. What's next? People going to outsource me? Guys, I actually met Wicked Wally in person. So Wicked Wally and I were actually with the Wilsons last weekend, not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. And we all met in Nashville, went to the Metallica concert. So I actually had a fun couple nights with Wicked Wally. He's a great guy in person. So really, really appreciate the newfound friendship, at least official friendship with Wally. Yeah, see Jenny saying, hey, Wally. Wally's a great guy. So good to see Wally in the chat. He probably just woke up. He's getting ready to go to work soon. So good morning, Wally. Good morning. But yeah, the Wilsons, Wally, my wife and I, we had a great time going to the Metallica concert last Saturday in Nashville. So anyways, let me finish the sort of intro here, and then we'll go on to I need your guys' recommendations on business and stuff like that. So here's my little section on methodology and scope. So it basically says it's not focusing on current technologies, the state of CRISPR or something like that. This work employs an intellectual historical approach that explores the body of Western thought concerning technology as having a deifying and salvific purpose. Intellectual history attempts to identify unit ideas and trace their permutations and persistence through different eras. In this sense, the current work adopts a perennialist approach akin to Arthur Lovejoy. And perennialist does not mean perennialism in regards to spirituality. Perennialist means that there are perennial ideas that move through history. And this is opposed to the contextualist approach that believes there are no historically unified unit of ideas and that all ideas are culturally contextualized. So I don't believe that all ideas are culturally contextualized, although culture matters. Although culture matters, I do believe that there's a logical consistency in ideas, and that's what's referred to as a perennialist approach, akin to Arthur Lovejoy, who believed that ideas are enduring entities that can be traced along time spans among different centuries and cultural settings. This approach highlights how later thinkers inherit and recombine elements of earlier thought, revealing a long-term genealogy of concepts. And so we're going to skip the methodology and then the cultural relevancy of my project. In recent years, both transhumanism and Eastern Orthodoxy have received significant public attention. This convergence is not coincidental. It reflects a cultural moment in which secular visions of human upgrade and religious visions of human glorification openly compete and converge. Despite being a small minority of the United States, Eastern Orthodox Christianity has seen a recent surge in interest in conversions, especially among young adults. According to one report, a 78% increase in converts to Orthodoxy in 2022 compared to pre-pandemic levels marks a striking increase. This trend, highlighted in a viral New York Post article about young men converting in droves, suggests that Orthodoxy's traditional spirituality and mystical orientation resonates in modern culture. Cultural visibility and curiosity in Orthodoxy have risen since the COVID-19 pandemic and gained members at higher rates than other Christian churches in America, all of which has marked Orthodox Christianity as a notable player in the American religious landscape after 2020. The 2020 saw rapid advances in AI, biotech, and space technology that fueled the public's imagination about post-human futures. Silicon Valley oligarchs and industry leaders openly discussed the goals of life extension, human enhancement, and even immortality in ways that would have been seemed far-fetched a decade ago. Investment into anti-aging science, for example, hit record levels in 2012 through 2022 with over $7 billion each year in private funding, and companies devoted to longevity have received billion-dollar backing. Brain-computer interface research likewise leapt forward, and in 2023, Elon Musk's Neuralink received FDA approval for human trials of its brain implants. At the same time, transhumanist ideas have been moving from niche futurist circles into mainstream discourse. If Elon Musk exemplifies applied transhumanism through his corporate endeavors, Brian Johnson is a case of personal transhumanism and treats his own body as a project of enhancement and life extension. Johnson, a tech entrepreneur and founder of Braintree/Venmo, is a self-proclaimed professional rejuvenation athlete and has gained fame for his extreme anti-aging regimen known as Project Blueprint. He has amassed millions of followers on YouTube and across his social medias, with a devoted community following his example in pursuit of technological immortality. This goes to show how influential and popular transhumanist ideas have become, and that the ancient quest for immortality is very much alive in the secular sphere. In 2024, in the 2024 presidential election, famous tech billionaires such as Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, David Sachs, and the Winklevoss brothers voiced public support for Donald J. Trump and backed his run with significant political donations. Vice President J.D. Vance was mentored under Peter Thiel and worked at Mithril Capital, demonstrating an interesting realignment among Silicon Valley moguls in the Republican Party in recent years, all of which has been noted by political theorists and cultural commentators, with one article stating, "Trust in artificial intelligence makes the Trump-Vance a transhumanist ticket." Within the first month in office, President Trump signed the Stargate project, a $500 billion investment in AI dominance with Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, and Matsuyoshi Son, CEO of SoftBank. This project aims to win the global AI race and promises to provide Americans with personalized vaccines and cancer treatments tailored to their DNA. Despite championing transhumanist projects that traditionally religious conservatives find blasphemous, Elon Musk has become a darling among political conservatives and MAGA supporters. This paradox highlights a broader cultural tension. On the one hand, Musk's critique of, quote, woke culture and his stance on free speech has endeared him to many on the political right. He is celebrated in MAGA circles as a tech tycoon who stands up to liberal elites, promotes American innovation, and fights for the traditional values of having children and domestic prosperity. Yet on the other hand, Musk is precisely the kind of Silicon Valley transhumanist Christian thinkers have warned about, someone who pushes for the merger of humankind with the machine and pursuing projects such as brain chips and human genetic experimentation, space travel, and sentient AI. However, not everyone on the right has been swept up in Musk mania. Influential voices like Steve Bannon and Joe Allen, who I did a stream covering The Dark Aeon, the book by Joe Allen, have issued stark warnings about Elon Musk's transhumanist endeavors. Bannon, a populist Catholic and political ideologist, has derided Musk as a hardcore techno-feudalist who does not value humans for being humans, but treats people as raw material for a digital utopia. In Joe Allen's book, The Dark Aeon, Transhumanism and the War Against Humanity, he describes Musk as a cyborg millionaire whose techno-religious vision threatens to undermine human dignity. He describes how currently we are merging with our machines through billions of people using smartphones. However, in the future, this merger will entail a full rewiring of human brains to artificial intelligence systems. The odd confluence, a billionaire transhumanist icon embraced by segments of the Christian right, is emblematic of a post-secular entanglement in our culture. Because he is seen as an opponent of the globalist left, some religious conservatives overlook their profound worldview differences and reflect a certain techno-utopianism creeping into conservative Christianity, where being a pro-Western Christian and pro-technology can override theological caution. It also sows the seeds for future conflict, forcing conservative Christians to face a reckoning between following the world's richest man and political champion into a transhumanist future, or heed the warnings of people like Bannon and Christian theologians and draw a line. This tension is of great interest to scholars of religion and society, as it reveals how post-secular society scrambles usual alignments, forcing ancient faiths to grapple with futuristic aspirations. It also suggests a latent instability between one movement aiming to serve God and another serving a techno-mammon entity, so to speak. Eventually, this fundamental incompatibility between Christian theosis and technological self-deification will demand a clearer resolution. For now, Elon Musk sits at the fulcrum of the debate, making the cultural conversation around transhumanism and Christian faith not abstract, but concrete and urgent. And then this dives into the deep Western history of the sort of transhumanism presupposition. So that's just the intro. Like, I really can't wait to do a stream. I know it's going to be boring. We've already lost some viewers here. Every time I read something online, we always lose a considerable segment of the audience. But that was the point of today's stream, is kind of just give you an overview of my project. I'm really excited to be done. I can't wait for you guys to actually dive into the actual chapters and see, all the historical citations and sources that I found and put together for this book. So I don't know. It is what it is. But I just want to thank everybody for showing support so far. Really, really appreciate that. You guys are absolutely great. And Snagglebeast throws in 5 over on Dono Chat. He says, I sent this in the YouTube chat, but you've got those beautiful scholarly blinders on. So here's a tip for my title: Rebuilding Babel, the horror and nihilism of transhumanist philosophy. That's not a bad one, Snagglebeast. I'm open to that. Ooh, that's not a bad one, Crisis King. Deus Ex Machina. That might be a good main title. I don't know. Yeah, please give me recommendations. I can use any of the recommendations. Let's see. Over on Streamlabs, we have Dr. Vagisil throws in $1, says, congrats on transforming into Dr. David Crispy Vagisil. The irony is that you have helped more people than other so-called doctors. Thank you so much, Dr. Vagisil. That means a lot coming from you. I know you work with a lot of patients. Andrew throws in 5, says, congratulations, doctor. Your synchronicity and divine providence and Christ the Eternal Tao videos were pivotal for me 2 years ago as a Jungian. I later made my way to Orthodoxy and was baptized last year. Glory to God, Andrew. I later made my way. Oh, and thank you for the content you create and keep it up, Dr. DPH. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate that, my brother. And Mad Cyborg throws in 5, says, congratulations, Dr. Harry. This will be the definitive book on this topic. It's absolutely incredible and packed with great topics. I can't wait to read it. Quick question. Did you go into the topic of evolution and the influence of Satanism on it? No, I didn't go into evolution or the history of evolution per se. It was really focused on transhumanism. So there is references to Darwin and the origin of species and stuff like that. I don't go into the origins of evolution per se. I mean, it's really the overall theme is technology and tracing technological dispositions throughout Western history, and then how it relates to contemporary transhumanism. So no, I didn't go into Satanism and evolution, though there is a relationship there. That might be another book in the future. There's already, and that's what I was going to say, is the dissertation is 361 pages. So my advisors, when I defended it and to the committee, one of the comments was, my advisor said, usually dissertations are a little bit shorter. So they're used to like 200 to 250 pages is usually the kind of move for most people. And I just didn't feel like my project, I was going to cut it short, but I wanted to finish my project. And that's what took me a few extra months. But my advisors, the PhDs, who, again, only 2 people had read it, so I didn't know how it was going to be received, but they said that there was no fat in it, that they wouldn't take anything out. They felt like it was the thread followed throughout the whole paper. And even though it was longer, that they said there's really nothing to take out. So I was really, really happy to hear that 3 different scholars with very different backgrounds and interests and focus read it and thought, you know what, because there's so many names, there's so many dates, there's so many book references. It is essentially the accumulation of my education put into one document. I mean, it references, and that's where I can't wait till you guys see the index of all the names, the historical names. laying out different philosophies, development of ideas. So yeah, but thank you very much for that, Mad Cyborg. Really appreciate it. I thought I just saw one come in over on YouTube. Oh, shout out to Nick. Oh, my buddy Nick, out in Idaho. God bless you, brother. Hope you and the family are doing well. Hope everything's good over there. He throws in a generous $20. Says, "Congrats, bro." Thank you so much, Nick. God bless you, brother. Hope the family's doing well. And so that, the last thing I wanted to talk to you guys about was like my plans moving forward. So what are the plans moving forward? What am I using this PhD for? And as I said, one of them is rebranding the old YouTube channel. So that old YouTube channel, David Patrick Carey, it is going to be really just doing new photos. Let me show you guys what I'm talking about here. So I got some new photos done just recently, and I want to show you guys those. Okay. So the plan is to rebrand the old YouTube channel. This was one. So we went to a library in Indianapolis. This was the only one in color. So I was trying to think about like the brand and image. This is the only one in color. I'll show you guys a few. So here's these are to redo my website. So I want to totally redo my website, update it, bring in new photos, new about sections, new descriptions, make it more interesting. And my goal was, one of the things is potentially try to get a community page on the website so all the members can talk to each other. One of the things that I really need advice on, that if you guys, anybody listening out there who knows how to do this, please let me know. It's I've had multiple people request sponsored streams, but they only had like $15 or $20 they wanted to put towards a sponsored stream. How can I make it so that I could have, like, people could vote on 4 or 5 different topics for a sponsored stream, and there could be a community pool for sponsored streams? Does anybody know how to make that happen? Because if people just send in money, as they do now, if they just super chat, that's really hard to track, like how much people have put into a pot. I thought I could create like a GoFundMe or a Give, Send, Go. Like once we've described the topic, pick some topic we could do a sponsored stream on or a deep dive on. I could make it like a GoFundMe or Give, Send, Go account so people could go send money to that. But I didn't know, did anybody know of a good idea of how you could create a page, and especially if it was related to my website? That would be ideal. If I had a page on my website where people could put money in for a sponsored stream in the future, so then people could just pool money together in the community. So you guys in the live chat could choose and come up with topics together. You can use masterminds. Yeah, I thought a GoFundMe would work. Justin Henley said, get Mr. E to do Dono gold bars. That's not a bad idea. I could reach out to Andrew about getting Dono gold bars set up. That's actually a good idea. That's a good thought, Justin. I'm going to write that one down. So Dono bars. Somebody asks, are you going to become an academic now after getting your PhD? So no, I talked a little bit about that. My goal is so here's my goal, guys. My goal is to publish this dissertation by the end of May, this month. Get my website totally redone. So it's way updated. It's got new photos, and here's some of these photos. Like here's one that's in color. The rest are in black and white. This is one just kind of doing research, studying. This was kind of just a general photo. This was what was used for the thumbnail today, actually. This is one just sitting there. in the library. And then this is one that I planned on making this the profile picture. So you imagine a circle around this. So the new, like redoing my Instagram, the old YouTube channel, this would be the photo that I think I'm going to use. So in the next week or so, get the old YouTube channel rebranded, start pumping out content on Instagram, and get my book published. And then my goal was potentially to write another book, as I was telling you guys, and let me know if there's another topic you think would be more interesting. My goal with the other YouTube channel is to engage with people that aren't in the Christian circle or the ortho world. So engage with anybody and everybody that's, commenting on culture. And so if I wrote a book, I mentioned this earlier, writing a book on the crisis of man, but making it sort of the ultimate and easily digestible book to give an 18-year-old male, or anybody, could be a woman, but it's titled The Crisis of Man, a brief snapshot of where they're at in the history of ideas, the history of economics, the history of nations, globalism, dating, modernity, all this different stuff, so that you could read it. And maybe you don't have a background in philosophy or a background in history. You don't need it. All of it will be presented in a very digestible, easy, simplistic, to the point kind of way. The goal would be maybe like 150 pages, 170 pages. Try to keep it short, not like my dissertation. And then publish that. I'd have two books, one general audience, one very academic. And The Crisis of Man will be so general that whether I'm talking with Rollo and he's talking about red pill, that relates to a chapter. If I'm talking to somebody about business and success or becoming anti-fragile, that relates to a chapter. So I put together a sort of Venn diagram of things that might be related. So like The Crisis of Man, nihilism, how it relates, the crisis of man relates to our relationship with God, how it relates to building families, how it relates to our loss of community, how it relates to our economic and lack of opportunities to buy a home, all these things. So it'd be a general snapshot of all these things. Each chapter would be focused on one topic. At the end of it would be the response to the crisis of man is to eventually become an Orthodox Christian. And then I could create a course that would go deeper into the crisis of man with various modules. So it'd be maybe 5 or 6 topics, 3 to 4 modules in each topic, and it would dive deeper into the crisis of man. And that way, that would be the sort of popular work. And I want to so my goal would be to have all that done by October, have 2 books, have courses, have my website redone, and be putting out a bunch of content on my older YouTube channel along with this one, and doing a lot more debates. So I figured everybody loves watching debates. What if I started just putting my hat in there and just trying to expose myself a little bit for the next few months, so people who don't know who I am or what I do can at least be exposed to who I am and hear me share some of my thoughts or stuff like that. So is that a good topic? Like, what do you guys think? Would that be, I felt like that would be the most general and easily digestible, and that would allow me to talk about masculinity, about culture, about religion, about philosophy, about economics, about politics, and set the scene for a young person, so that in a sense it's to catch them up. It's so that they can read the book and they can be brought up to speed on like what's happening. And the goal would be that if you read the book, it would be implied that I've already gone down those rabbit holes, right? So I've already gone down the rabbit hole with the Fed Reserve and Jekyll Island. And some people don't know. I've already gone down about the rabbit hole with drugs and psychedelics and New Age. I've already gone down the rabbit hole on globalism and centralized global order. I've already gone down the rabbit hole on, again, all these different topics, philosophy, nihilism, relativism, and to just give people all that so that they could just read it in one setting and they don't have to have a background knowledge of all this information. But one of the other things I thought about maybe doing a book on Elon Musk, like doing the ultimate right-wing Orthodox Christian critique of Elon Musk. I thought that might be a good one. Yeah, I'm going on the whatever. So Holland the Goods, I've already been in contact with the Whatever podcast. I'll be going on there. Jake Rattlesnake. Andrew, yeah, I've already talked with Andrew about a bunch of stuff. So I'll be on the Whatever podcast sometime this summer. I'm going to get back to him. We've been going back in DMs on X. So I'll definitely be going on the Whatever podcast, but any podcast, I'm open up to anything. So, the Whatever podcast, some of the engagement, one of the things is like, I'd really like to engage with like kind of high level people and not it devolve into, like the not so erudite. I watched a little bit of Jay and Jim Bob. I didn't watch the whole thing, but like she was so dumb. She didn't even know an aught claim had moral implications. And it's like, how do you debate somebody that doesn't even know an aught claim has moral implications? You can't. And so I get it that stuff's more about exposure, getting people to know who you are, kind of getting gotcha moments, nice clippable sections from those debates. And I'm going to do all that stuff. But it would be nice to also engage with people that kind of know the topics, and you can actually, it doesn't devolve into ad hominems and patronizing the other person. You can, actually have a formal debate that's intelligent about interesting topics. And I'd love to find transhumanists. I would love to debate transhumanists. Does anybody know of any transhumanists online that would do debates? So yeah, less TikTok level, but hey, you got to do the debate James Lindsay. I'd love to do that. Oh, I would love to do that. That would be phenomenal. I would love to do that. That would be so phenomenal. Oh, the debate James Lindsay. Yeah, I don't want it to. I want the debates. I'm going to do the TikTok level stuff because that's what gets people engaged. That's what gets the followers. I got to play the game for the next few months. I got to play the game on, getting engagement, getting people hot and bothered, liking, disliking, whatever it is to get them engaged. I mean, that is the sort of name of the game in regards to all this stuff. So yeah, I'm going to do all that. Oh, Andrew, Andrew just shout out to Andrew. This is a brother at my church. This is one of my Orthodox Christian brothers. Thank you so much. Andrew sends in $20, says, huge congratulations, Dr. DPH. Glad to see the big accomplishment on your journey. Excited to see all of your future projects. Glory to God and many years and blessings. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate that, brother. God bless you, your family, and shout out to your brother. Let him know I said hi. You may be with him right now. So thank you very much, man. I really appreciate that. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate you being part of the church. Appreciate all the experience that we've shared together. So God bless you, Andrew. Really appreciate that support, my man. Let's see. Hauling the Goods throws in 50. Thank you so much, Hauling the Goods. Love the reading of your book. I will for sure be getting the book. Anytime I can learn anything from smarter people than me, I'm all about it, even though I am just a trucker. Hey, there's nothing wrong with being a trucker. In fact, isn't that like one of the most important jobs in America in regards to the actual functioning of day-to-day life and the economy? So you are the backbone of America, brother. Thank you so much for the generous $50 support. Really appreciate that. And yeah, I can't wait to get it published. I really, really cannot wait to get it published. And Aaron just throws in $100. Thank you so much, brother, for the generous support. He says, huge congrats to you, my friend. May God bless your endeavors. I have a 17-year-old son to whom I'd love to give a copy of your book. Oh, well, that's what I think I'm going to do. It doesn't seem like anybody in the chat has given me any ulterior ideas. It sounds like the crisis of man, is a good second option for a popular book. I mean, if you guys have recommendations, I think that's the most popular general book I could write that would really be beneficial to the community that we already have, new people coming to Orthodoxy, but then just the mass American or Western English speaking audience generally around the world. So sounds like you guys are all kind of agreeing with that. He says, I'd love to see a concise history of all the major heresies. Well, if you honestly, the best concise overview regards to just defining them is this book right here. St. John of Damascus has a whole section on heresies in the Orthodox faith. So if you get this book, there's a whole chapter. It's the third book here on heresies and on the Orthodox faith, where he just lists a bunch of them. But it would be a good idea for a book to cover the most important major heresies and how they're still prevalent today. That's a really good idea. That's a really good book title, book opportunity. And here's another one that I thought. Book. Major heresies. Another book idea I thought was an introduction to Orthodox Christianity. So there's all these books like Thomas Hopko's introduction. There's so many books that people use for catechism. And I thought, well, what I believe my skill set is, generally in the orthosphere, but just specifically to me, is that I can take ideas and break them down so they're a little bit more digestible for the regular person, so they don't have to have so much background information. So I feel like whatever skills I have, the most useful to the world is my ability to do research, which I love to do research, and then to break down and compartmentalize that research so that it's digestible for somebody to learn or process. So I thought, what if I did like an ultimate? It wouldn't be super, super detailed, like getting into all the intricacies, but like if you're just a regular person, maybe you're Christian, maybe you're Protestant, and you're learning about Orthodoxy, what if there was a book that was, again, like 150 pages? So not something super big, not something intimidating, but easily readable, that just bam, 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 that, presents the paradigm like Orthodox Christianity so that it can be digestible. I thought that would be a good book. Another one I thought was, what if I did a book that was like the 100 most important philosophical and theological terms, and all it was is just 100 words. Each word gets its own paragraph defining what it is and why it's important to know. And so it goes through like ontology, epistemology, metaphysics, theodicy, just terms that people don't know, soteriology. And it just gives a definition and then a description on why it's important and why it relates to philosophy and theology. And that would be, I thought it'd be an interesting book, because the game with these books, at least from what I was reading online, is they have to be like general audience books. If you're going to write an academic book, you basically have to chalk it up that all those hours, you're not going to get financially rewarded for it, especially if you're self-publishing, unless you have a ginormous following. So if that's the case, then my logic is I need to publish my dissertation as an academic book, and I need to write like 3 general books. And then in like 3 years, I could spend time. I'd already have my business. I'd have courses. I have books. I'd have streams, and I'd be continually creating streams. But then then I could go and do another academic book, because it takes so much time and so much reading that I'd love to write another academic book. It just, when you do that, you have to plan for, basically 2 years to get everything done. So after I get a handful of books written, general, easier to read books, courses up, I'd love to do another academic takedown on something or deep dive into something. So I don't know what that is. I haven't even thought that far, but, and then eventually, like in regards to, I was trying to think, and maybe you guys can give me suggestions on what can I offer in the orthosphere. But then generally speaking, that, my buddies that, they're not doing, Andrew's great at debates. Jay's great at debates. Jay does his voices and his comedy stuff. Jim Bob's good at debates. Jim Bob's hilarious and funny. And so I was trying to think, like, what is it that I can contribute? And it feels like the thing that I can contribute is actual education, which I like. And so the ultimate goal after like 3 years or so would what I would hope to be is like an actual academy. It'd be memberships, it'd be courses, and I'd love to eventually have like academic courses that people can take. So if you're an Orthodox parent, say you're 30, 40 years old and you're not going to college, you know, you got a full-time job, you got children, you got a lot of responsibilities. But what if there is an opportunity to have courses, academic level, like this is college or graduate level, that anybody could take? Of course, you're not getting accredited at a university, but you can pick a topic related to the course. Could be Christian apologetics, could be intro to world religions, could be the history of magic or mysticism, magic and mysticism. And so I create the course, 10 weeks, PowerPoints for each. We do private Zoom meetings that people that purchase for the semester. So it's basically just like a university course, except it's, you know, like an online university course. It's basically the same thing. And then at the end, I can help you write a paper that you would like to maybe put on a blog, or maybe you want to publish it. You know, maybe it's 10 to 40 pages, however long people want to write a paper. And then the goal is, if you join, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get access to a lot of information, private class type setting. And then you can write something of interest to you. Maybe you're an Orthodox and you always wanted to know about apologetics against Islam, or maybe we do an intro course to world religions, and then the paper you write is a deconstruction of the Islamic worldview or something like that. And then I can help with your grammar and the flow of your paper. And so you end the semester with actually something to hold. Like you actually have a piece of writing that you can continually mold, because writing is like sculpting. The first time you actually get all your ideas down is like getting the block of marble. And then it comes to the editing process. And then you actually shift, you know, you're actually crafting and shaping the marble to look like David, you know, like the statue of David. I feel like writing is a lot like that. You get all the information out, you get all your sources, you get all that on the paper, and then you start going through and you're like, God, this doesn't make sense. This needs to be down here in this section. Just delete that whole paragraph. And then that's part of the writing. So that would be something to try to help people, is potentially do something like that. Justin Henley says, you can counter mainstream narratives, education, propaganda, expose people to the truth of history. Yeah, that's kind of what the goal of the personal brand is just my opinion to try to do exactly that. Everything that mainstream narratives, education, but, you know, building an actual business so I can take care of my wife, so I can have children, so I can buy a house. You know, I need to build what other, you know, like what, for example, what other, like who online do you guys watch who's a quote unquote PhD, who has a thriving online business, an online following, and engaging community? I think of Jordan Peterson. I think of Dr. Taylor Marshall. Weinstein brothers. Like who? Yeah, Jordan Peterson, Christ is King, Jordan Peterson. Like that's what I'm trying to say, is like I'm trying to figure out, how do I build my business as a quote unquote academic who's not actually participating in the university structure and applying for university jobs and trying to publish to all the journals, because that's the game. If you want to work at a university, you have to publish in journals, and the more publishing that you get done, the more journals that accept your papers, the more impressive scholar you are. But that's kind of the problem with academia, right? You go into academia and then you take courses with professors and these people with PhDs, and you're like, these people are retards, and they're all driven by a political agenda that is facilitated and abetted by these journals, and they publish nonsense articles because it fits with the general narrative. That's not scholarship. That's not what academia is supposed to be. That's certainly not what I want to make my career. And Steve Turley, Dr. Steve Turley. Oh, that's a great point, Clontarf. Hey, shout out to you, brother. God bless you and the family. That's a great Dr. Steve Turley. I've never engaged with him. Rich G says, get in touch with Ancient Faith or another ortho press. That's a good idea. So, the late Michael Heiser. Yeah, that's a really good point. But, but Michael Heiser, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't have a thriving online business. I mean, yeah, and Dr. Bo Branson or Dr. Bradshaw, I mean, those are streams that I'd like to have, but they work for actual universities, right? So the majority of their income is coming from their university position. I don't have a university position. So I got to make up the money they make through this online business. And that's what I got to figure out is how do I monetize the business? How do I monetize information? And that's a little bit different from monetizing outrage or monetizing controversy or drama, even though in a way that's what the personal brand's going to be, is kind of monetizing those things because that's what gets clicks. Unfortunately, that's the game you have to play, but do it in my own style. That's very educational, thoughtful, has depth. But how do you monetize information? How do you make money? Yeah, I know Jay has his philosophy courses with Dr. Turley. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I think that's who's Jay's philosophy courses through. Maybe not through Dr. Turley. I've seen Jay on Dr. Turley, and we follow each other. Dr. Turley and I follow each other on X. Oh no, the philosophy course is different. I forget who that. It's like forget who that's with. But I mean, Rabid Raccoon has book ideas. He says against Sanatana Dharma, against Neoplatonism, against paganism, against Zionism, can be little booklets covering quickly facts and precepts against these demonic entities. Yeah, I thought about like what if I put together like the ultimate book on Zionism and Christian Zionism and dispensationalism. I thought, well, that might be and that would have to be more of an academic book. I mean, I'd want that one highly cited, stand up to academic scrutiny. But I thought about something like that. Like, what if I put together the ultimate sort of historical, philosophical, theological overview of Christian Zionism? Because that'd be beneficial, whether you're Protestant, Catholic, or Orthodox. People would potentially buy that. So, yeah, I have some merchandise, and I'm going to redo my Printful. I have merch on my website and T-shirts. I was thinking about making some new T-shirts, but merchandise, unless you're like like the Mug Club, they did good with merchandise, but merch, generally speaking, isn't a main revenue source. Like the Crucible does good with merch. Merch is not their main revenue source. So when you do these online businesses, it's like paid content is usually number one, your memberships. So you got to get memberships. You have to have exclusive content. Then books, speaking engagements, online digital products. So ebooks, like it's very common, or at least from the research I was doing, it's very common for these people that have like large online brands to have like free PDF on their website. So something that's maybe 10, no more than 20 pages, that's kind of real surface level, to put that out for free. So people go to your website and they get in a habit of clicking or downloading something or purchasing something. So I was thinking, what a dumb comment. If you want money, go to work, bro. All right. That's such a retard. Drive a truck or bag groceries. Yeah, that's okay. Insightful comment. Thank you for that. So anyway, the way you have revenue streams, of course, live streaming, super chats, but usually memberships and e-products, courses. So I don't have any courses put together. Those are the ways in which people usually make money. And then through one-on-one. So if you're a coach, you make your one-on-ones like the most expensive item of your e-products. Now, for me right now, my one-on-ones are one of the cheaper items. Just because the audience, a lot of the people that I do one-on-ones with are a lot of young men, and they don't have, hundreds of dollars or $1,000 to set up one-on-one sessions. So I potentially will restructure that, but I was just curious, like, what is the audience interested in? So one of the things I think I might do to drive more memberships is there's a lot of streams I want to do that are in depth that take me about a day or probably 2 days to do all the research to do a live stream on. And I was thinking outside of the sponsored streams and outside of open panels or interviews, any stream I do that takes a significant amount of research, I was thinking, what if I did them live? So if you're live, you'll be able to watch it. But then once it's not live, just like Andrew does with his debates, make it private. And so for YouTube members or website members, they can watch the video that you just live streamed. But unless you caught it live and you're not a member, you're not going to be able to see it anymore. So that was one of the things I was thinking, because looking at Andrew's success for his membership model is about getting a lot of content behind a paywall. And so right now, I make a couple videos a month for the members, and then I'm putting all my show documents. But I need to figure out a way that could be more beneficial. Yeah, there's pros and cons to that. But I don't know exactly how to, in my logic, Dr. Crispy, is what is the amount of money I make by leaving the stream up? So one, that's not money, is you get a new subscriber or person who's interested in that topic, may not be aware of your YouTube channel or who you are, but you did a topic on, you did a stream on a topic that related to them. They clicked on it. So leaving a stream up, get new people and ad revenue. But, getting a couple, anywhere between 2,000 to 10,000 people that rewatch a stream that I make, is that really worth it from putting it behind a paywall and maybe getting 2 to 3 new members every time I do one of those? I'm not sure. And then I could so once I finish the live stream and it's now private for members, I could take like the first 30 minutes and post that clip on YouTube. So every stream that I did that's now behind a paywall, people will still know about it because there'll be a public clip video about it. And if they want to watch the full stream, then they can go become a member. That was one of the things I was thinking about. Yeah, well, that's been my big thing. Robert says something positioned as entertainment will push farther. That's the big one. In talking with friends and successful friends, that's their point. Is the difficult thing if you want to be like a serious educator online, is it just doesn't get the engagement. So if you want to get an engagement, you just have to be entertaining. You have to entertain people, and often it means kind of like allowing people to kind of turn their brains off. You kind of speak for them. And a lot of my stuff is like engaging. So you have to like keep following me when we go through these stream topics. So I was thinking, how can I make my stuff more entertaining? And at the same time, I feel like a lot of the people that follow Church of the Eternal Logos like the long form, in-depth information. And so I don't want to stop doing that because that's kind of my passion. I love researching and I love presenting information. That's what I love to do. That's what I want to continue to do. But if I continue to do what I'm doing, Church of the Eternal Logos is going to have a very slow progression to actually becoming a business that can support my family. So that's why rebranding the old YouTube channel and kind of taking a new approach is what I've been thinking. M Axiom throws in $2, says Christ is risen, and congratulations, truly is risen. Thank you so much, Axiom, for the support. Really appreciate that. So I mean, what do you guys, knowing the type of content that I make and who I am, do you guys have suggestions in regards to a business model? I mean, it's website, it's ebooks, it's physical books, it's e-products, it's memberships, and it's super chats and engagement online, marketing, going on people's streams. I mean, do you guys have any advice for me? Solomon says, you're good at articulating. Even if you're not entertaining, your interpretation of current events is valuable. Well, thank you. And that's the goal. But that's why I'm thinking basically my Yeah, first hour for free. That's a good idea, Jeremiah. Is I'll just make the first hour for free on the other streams. So long form YouTube videos are for us high IQ, definitely not autistic viewers. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's my audience is so heavy in regards to people that like in-depth long form content. But here's my problem with my content, because it's so focused on education. People rewatch my content after it's live. So if other people are live, people will go to their streams because it's funny or it's more engaging. It's less heady or having to follow. And so they'll go watch those live. And then when they're ready, they'll go watch my streams after it's been live and recorded, which I kind of miss out on the audience. So I got to figure out how to get more people to want to be there live. And I figured the best way to do that is to make them only available live. And if I did the first half available at YouTube and then the full stream behind a paywall, that'd probably be the best way to do it. Eric Vigilant says, you got to dive into the conspiracy world and make videos about theories and conspiracy theories. People like, okay, that's true. Yeah, I can definitely. And that's what I'm getting ready to do. I mean, you guys, I'm going to do a stream tomorrow, stream Thursday, but you're going to see so much content pumping out. First week or so, it's going to be normal Church of the Eternal Logos. Eventually, it's going to be videos being posted on the older YouTube channel that are unique to that YouTube channel. It's the only place that you can find them. And it will be exactly what you're talking about. Conspiracy, engaging stuff, whatever gets people engaged or riled up. I'm going to give my opinion and perspective on that. And yeah, so that is the plan. I mean, that's exactly what the plan is. Gnosis says life advice is really the moneymaker, in my opinion, on YouTube. Hunter says, I live on YouTube. I've probably seen every YouTube video twice. That being said, you are one of the best YouTube channels right now. High IQ content. No doubt you're going to blow up soon. Well, thank you, Hunter. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, I just need to make it more accessible for people. Everybody says, oh, I love your stuff, but it's, you have a 4-hour stream on eschatology. I can't watch that. And then I post a clip video, and it's like, for me, the 20-minute or 40-minute clip is only a portion of the larger narrative at play. But I like when you did your weekend review and I'm going to continue to do that, David. So that's going to be stuff that's going to be on Church of the Eternal Logos. So open panels, drama, the drama streams that I did, the sort of weekend review type stuff, and interviews with clergy and Orthodox thinkers on topics. That's all going to continue. The unique content that I do research for, those are the ones that I think I'm going to put behind a paywall. Maybe make the first 45 minutes or an hour free. But like, what kind of courses would you guys pay for? This was something I was talking with the marketing guy, and I was making the point to him that it's like 4 or 5 courses I can teach at a university. So I can teach new religious movements, history of Western esotericism, religion in America. I could teach an intro to Orthodox theology, history and theology. And the marketing guy, when I was telling him about that, he's like, yeah, those are all nice, but people aren't going to sign up to buy those courses. You need to have courses tied with a book or tied with something much more popular that people can engage in. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And so that's why we talked about the crisis of man. I came up with that book and creating courses related to that. But what kind of courses would you guys buy? What kind of things are valuable to you guys? Because I'm open to anything. I'm open to any suggestion, any revisioning of what I'm doing. In my mind, this is a new start. This is a new stage of my life. So I'm open to do change and get sponsored by Chalk. I do need some sponsors. That's something I've actually been thinking about. Church history could be a course. Yeah, I could do one on church history. Well, how would that relate to courses, though? I'm curious on what type of courses would be beneficial. What type of courses would people like, if any? I don't know. Do some outdoor videos like Father Spiridon. Now, Father Spiridon's got that one pretty much niched. So I don't know if I'm going to take his style. I'll let him continue to do what he's doing. Clontarp says, DPH, at risk of crispy and moldy making fun of me, you have more followers after appearing on bigger channels. You will appeal to men seeking leaders and to the ladies. Oh, well, thank you, Clontarf. That's another big point. I mean, you're going to see me going, anybody who asks for an interview, anybody who has a channel, I'm going to go on the next few months. So you'll see me on whatever. You'll see me on some other ones. You'll see me doing debates just so I can get out there and get some exposure. So I think you're totally on point, Clontarf. I agree with you. I agree with you that just getting more exposure will help more. And that's something that I need to do. So that is a huge motivation for, whatever will help. Yeah, I'll be on whatever in probably June or July. This month, May, I'm really focusing on getting this dissertation published, which I got to reformat things, go back through, make sure there's no more errors, and then get that self-published by the end of the month. And then once I have it published and my website redone, then when I go on whatever, I can drive people to my website. If there are smart people in the audience, maybe they want to buy my book, but I'll be a doctor, the title, doctor, and I'll have a book and I'll have my website and I'll have my social media and I'll have my other YouTube channel rebranded with a few YouTube videos up on that. And then people can always go to Church of the Eternal Logos and see all the streams that are already up. So actually, those movie reviews aren't that popular, Thomas. If you look at the overall views, but I love doing them because BLA is so much fun to stream with and just chat with. So, well, I'll be continuing all that stuff, and anybody in all the sponsored streams. So all sponsored streams. I mean, Church of the Eternal Logos is basically continuing as is. It's just that a long form, in-depth educational channel does not perform well on YouTube in the long term. So you have like philosophy channels that have thousands of clip videos that are, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. But unless it's a personality brand, it's really hard to get a massive audience just doing education. So Church of the Eternal Logos is going to continue as is. Sponsored streams, open panels, interviews, drama, weekend review type stuff, and the streams that I wish to do. It's the funneling project, right? So the funnel is to the website, is to e-products. The Church of the Eternal Logos is the more in-depth information for free, and then the personal brand, the old YouTube channel, is going to be attempting to be the marketing, right? It's the opening of the funnel. It's to try to get awareness of who I am or what I'm doing. Presentation is huge. Maybe Jordan Peterson's Bible style lectures. That's not a bad idea. Mario says, maybe, or how about a course on dating in the modern age as a Christian? Lots of pickup artist type content, but nothing to guide men in the current landscape. That's actually a good idea. That's worth writing down. A course on Christian dating. Okay. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. That's something that it's a topic that would be useful. It'd be just as relevant 2 years after I write it. People could still be using it. So that's a very relevant topic for sure. Summaries of patristic thought so we don't have to read it. Yes, Father Moses is doing Christian dating type videos. Yeah, well, again, and Father Moses is doing exactly what the personal brand is supposed to do. He chooses relevant cultural topics, things that are polarizing, things that are highly relevant, and then he gives a very straightforward kind of orthodox pastoral perspective on it. And that, again, that's what the personal brand will do. You see, they're like edited videos. They're 10, I don't know if there's any more than 20 minutes on his YouTube channel, shorter videos, hitting cultural topics, giving a straightforward perspective, and people love that stuff. And obviously he has the authority of being a priest, and I don't have that authority, but I have, the academic credential, whatever that means. It means less and less. So it's, I'm not bragging about that, but in regards to the eyes of the general world, it is a sort of authority. A doctorate, a philosophical doctorate, is a sort of authority. So that's kind of exactly the Father Moses approach for the personal brand. Is exactly what I'm thinking, except they'll have podcasts and interviews with people from a variety of different worldviews. So he says, check out Dr. Christopher Veneman's channel. He drives you to his books and courses on the church fathers and hesychasm. He just passed 200,000 subscribers. Oh, okay. I've never heard of this person. Dr. Christopher Veneman. What's his YouTube channel? I'm not seeing 200,000 subs. Am I missing something? Mount Tabor Academy is his YouTube. Oh, yeah, 220,000 subs. Oh, and he has tons of members content. Okay. Interesting. I was not aware of this man. I have never watched one of his videos. Let me subscribe. I'll check him out. Thank you for that reference. I was not aware. I had not checked out his stuff before. Jonathan Hill doesn't like him, so well, that's a good sign of endorsement. Actually, he must be pretty good then. He's with Saint Photios. He's with the old calendars. Let me see. Oh, he's a spiritual child of Saint Sophrony. Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. So it sounds like you guys haven't given me, I'll be honest, you guys haven't given me as much feedback as I was expecting. So it sounds like maybe you guys agree with my general plan. Is that what I'm picking up? Reconquista Orthodox throws in 2, says, why don't you go into the rabbit hole of true Orthodox? That's not a bad idea. Mr. Sand throws in 10, says, Orthodoxy for New Age Dummies book idea. That's not a bad idea either. And then Mr. Axiom, Christ is risen. Congratulations. Thank you very much. And Justin Henley threw in 5 more. Is there a catechesis content you can do without a blessing? Will be valuable as an Orthodox? Well, I could get a blessing. Anything that revolves a blessing, I mean, my priest and my bishop, they all know what I do. So I don't think getting a blessing for catechism, as long as the church saw it and recognized it, I don't think they'd have a problem with that at all. So I could, that's kind of what I was thinking, is kind of an unofficial catechesis book, as in sort of encompassing intro to orthodoxy for anybody coming from any sort of spiritual perspective. Could be Protestantism, could be occultism, didn't matter. So I'm going to keep that one down in regards to Orthodox overview as a potential book. So Thank you, Justin Henley. Appreciate that. But you guys have, yeah, I know about Substack. I don't have one though. I should create a Substack. I will create a Substack. I'll create a Substack. A timeline history book. That's something I could do. An Orthodox perspective on the history of Christianity. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, I should create a Substack, Alexandria. I don't have one, but that is a good idea. I need to see what all you can do with Substack. I know that you can post videos, writing articles. You can have it all behind a paywall. Yeah, I'm going to start a Substack. I'll create one tonight. Well, guys, you have any more suggestions or ideas for me? Let's see. I'm checking Streamlabs. Thomas Henderson throws in $25. Thank you so much, Thomas. Thomas in the chat. Thomas has been a supporter for he is one of the oldest website members I have is Thomas Henderson. And so really appreciate you, my man. Appreciate your friendship. Appreciate all your support. Thank you very much. He throws in 25 and says, congratulations, Dr. Harry. Well done, my friend. Look forward to purchasing a copy once it's published. Thank you for sharing your time and wisdom while bringing this to fruition. Some take special, well-deserved downtime for yourself and Jenny. Well, I appreciate that. Our downtime was going to Metallica Nashville. And then this weekend after I finished, I didn't do anything on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. So I'm now rejuvenated. I'm ready to create content. I'm ready to stream, 4 or 5 times a week and pump my channel back up. Clontarf, any chance of getting Father Stephen DeYoung on? Would be widely viewed, I think, relatively. That's a good idea. I've never reached out to him. I thought you were getting ready to say Father Spiriton Bailey, but he doesn't do interviews. I actually spoke with Father Spiriton, and he said he would. He liked my channel, but he doesn't do interviews as request from his bishop. So he only has a blessing from his bishop to create his YouTube videos and write his books. But let me write that down. Father Stephen DeYoung. That's a good idea. That'd be a good stream. Wicked Wally says you can start doing comedy content. Just got to give you 3 beers first. Thank you, Wally. And yes, Wally's dad jokes, he does perform them in person. So if you know his persona online is just like him offline. Get pregnant. That would definitely draw some eyes for sure. Yeah, Father John Whiteford's been on the channel before. We've done streams together. If you go to my channel and search Father John, he'll come up. Play video games with Father Steph. Yeah. Bortical says the new age /psychedelic to orthodoxy pipeline is fascinating to me. Me and my sister both followed this path, and me too. It's a real thing happening. Charles says, talk to Father Peter, and I know the Archdiocese is trying to come out with a new general catechism for parish use. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'll speak with Father. Thanks, Charles. I'll speak with Father Peter about that. Start a yearly conference at your church. Well, we plan on, we just sold our church. So we are in the process of, we're going to have to meet temporarily at a Protestant church here in Indy until we can get a structure built. We just purchased 14 acres. So our church is in the process of moving, expanding, and it does have we do have the goal of having a school and a place to host conferences and stuff like that. But that's going to be in the future. Fitness content with Seraphim and Father Moses. Well, that I was planning on doing that on my personal channel. So on the personal brand, I was going to maybe this summer do some fitness videos. And if I go down to Texas, train with Father Moses and train with Seraphim and make some, just like, YouTube fitness vloggers type do, but do it with those guys. I was thinking about that, maybe doing some travel videos, stuff like that. You could debate Chat GPT about AI. That would actually be a pretty good stream. That would be a pretty good stream. Yeah, Justin says, come to Texas. Father Moses has been trying to get me down there. I told him I'm going to. He always tells me I got to come when we're not on a fasting period so I can get the Texas barbecue. Yeah, how to train and do Lent. Well, your training's not as great as it normally is, but you can do it. I did it this Lent, so it is possible. It's just not it's not going to be your greatest workouts, that's for sure. But anyways, guys, I think that's gonna do it for me today. I want to thank all you guys. You guys have been so generous in helping me celebrate today on accomplishing my goal, and I just feel so thankful that I have you guys and have the community, and I feel really appreciative of just kind of being able to start this new step in my life. I mean, I got married, so 2025 is going to be a big year. Got married in 2024. Finished my PhD in 2025, and I'm just excited to build my business, create content, write books. Like, I have so many book ideas that I'd love to do, create courses. So there's so many things that I'm excited for, because for the first time since I've been doing this YouTube channel, I can put my sole focus on this and growing it, and getting more people and getting more exposure and creating more content, where before I was always dividing my time between reading books and doing research that's totally unrelated to content I'm creating. So I create a stream on, one topic. Could be, I remember one I was doing was the Rothschilds in the city of London. Spent a day or two preparing for that. And meanwhile, I'm also reading books for the dissertation that was totally unrelated. And so that drove me nuts. And now I get to just focus on creating content and blowing this up and doing debates and going places. I don't have to worry about, offending anybody at the university anymore. So I just feel so excited for this next stage. And I'm just so thankful to all you guys for supporting me and for being here and for watching the journey. I mean, I created this YouTube channel back when I was in California, becoming Orthodox. And this was my out for when I got my PhD, because I created this YouTube channel literally in response to what was going on in Berkeley with John Searle, the analytical philosopher, arguably the most famous philosopher still living, getting fired from Berkeley after being tenured since the 1960s because he asked a woman out on a date or to go out to dinner, and she claimed that was sexual harassment. So when I saw that, I was like, there's no way I'm going to devote my life to working for a university that can fire me at any point. And so the only option then is to create something that I can make money and have a business doing what I like to do, which is research, write, and present content and educate people. And that's what this YouTube channel was. And now that it's built, it exists. We have a community, we have content, and now I can just focus on it as a business and making money and growing it. And I'm just excited for the next step. So thank you all for the support. George throws in $5. Thank you so much, George, for the $5. Really appreciate it. And Hunter throws in 28, says, I'm going to get a Logos Premium subscription. Wishing you all the best. Well, thank you so much, Hunter. I promise you'll love a premium membership, because the think tank meetings are phenomenal. The quality of conversation at our think tank meetings is next to none. So I promise you, Hunter, if you become a Logos Premium member and you join the think tank, we meet twice every month. I promise you will enjoy it, because that depth of conversation from all the minds that we have in there, it's incredible. So thank you, Hunter. Really appreciate the support. God bless you, brother. Let me just double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. Jewish Skeptic throws in 6 on Dono Chat. Says, congrats on the PhD. I enjoy your breakdowns on ancient religions, philosophy, and ideologies, where they are right and where they are wrong from an Orthodox perspective. Shame they are niche. So thank you so much, Jewish Skeptic. Really appreciate that support. God bless you. And Alula throws in 5 over on Streamlabs. Thank you so much, Lula. And they say, congratulations, Dr. DPH. We are very proud of you. Well, thank you so much, Alula. And Mad Cyborg throws in another 5 and says, maybe you could do a stream or even better, a book, deconstructing and refuting evolution. That's actually a good topic. That's another perennial topic, a topic that wouldn't go out of style after a year or so. That's not a bad idea. That's actually a good one. Debunking evolution. Book. Yeah, I'd like to do a book format of that. Something that would kind of stand the test of time. That's a great idea. Thank you for that. And Bats thins in $5. Thank you very much, Bats, for that support. Really appreciate it. And Mad Cyborg, I wrote that down. I'm going to keep that. Thank you. So anyways, major thank you to Abject Fool, Moldy Apple, Jay Hamza, Ertz Aaron, Holland the Goods. You guys gave very generous support and donations today. Really, really thank you. And thank you to everybody who sent in money, everybody who supported my work, everybody who subscribed to my YouTube channels. Thank you guys so very much. I'm excited for this next stage of my life. And that stage is inclusive of you guys, because it gets nowhere without continually providing content and hopefully giving you guys interesting and informative presentations and information, continuing to do what this YouTube channel does, trying to do more and kind of supplant my academic works with a sort of personal brand and trying to grow all this stuff. And I just feel so thankful. So thank you guys so very much. Thank you for everybody who supported me and who watches these streams. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I will be back tomorrow. We'll get back to the usual schedule. And tomorrow we'll be diving into the Jordan Peterson and James Lindsay conversation that they had. And we will be debunking the woke right and really giving a critique and a framework for it that I think everybody else has missed. So do hope that you guys are able to join me tomorrow. It'll be at 5:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll see you guys then. As always, until then, God bless.